I didn't grow up in a happy home. My childhood was born in shadows, the kind that creep slowly, quietly, until they become the air you breathe. It wasn't the chaos of explosions or grand disasters, no. It was the suffocating, silent kind. The kind that twists itself into your life so deeply that it begins to feel normal. I was born in South Korea, and for a short while life was steady, ordinary, safe. But the illusion shattered the day my father died. Murdered. Even now, saying that word feels unreal, like I'm reciting someone else's tragedy. My father's death tore our lives apart, and from that moment on, nothing would ever feel safe again. My mother and I left everything behind. We fled to Australia, as if crossing an ocean could erase the past. But resets aren't real, not when you're already drowning in grief. Australia in the early 2000s was no refuge. It was harsh, especially for someone like me, awkward, quiet, a foreign child who barely spoke English. The other kids didn't know what to make of me. And truthfully, I didn't know what to make of myself either. Making friends was hard. Everything was hard. And then, when I was 12, something happened. Something that made my stomach twist then, and still does now. It was the day I came closer than I ever realized to never making it home. My mother and I were on a road trip along the southern coast of Victoria. She thought the ocean air might be good for us, something peaceful, a break from the noise of life. One evening, we stopped at a quiet caravan park. It looked harmless, almost picturesque. Trimmed lawns, blooming frangipani, a little creek bubbling along the edge of the grounds. For a moment, it almost felt safe. But safety is a lie. After setting up, my mother went to rest, and I wandered off. I found a small weathered rec room hidden behind hedges, with a pool table, arcade machines, and a faded couch. I spent hours there until another boy wandered in. He was about my age, quiet and awkward like me. We talked a little, nothing memorable, except for the way he kept glancing at the door, fidgeting, restless. Eventually, he invited me to his caravan, said his parents were making dinner. I refused at first, but he was persistent. He offered sweets, cake, things no 12-year-old would turn down. Slowly, he wore me down, and I followed. His caravan looked different from ours, older, sagging, curtains missing, paint faded, a hollow kind of wrongness about it. He told me to wait outside while he went in. Moments later, the door creaked open, and instead of him, a man stepped out. A large man, bare-chested, with wire-rimmed glasses and stained shorts. His smile stretched too wide. "Want to come in?" he asked. Everything inside me screamed run, but I was raised to trust adults, to be polite. And so I hesitated. I took a step forward. That's when a voice shouted behind me, "Hey, what's going on over there?" The man moved fast, grabbing me by the back of my dress, trying to yank me inside. His grip was iron, and for one horrifying second, I felt the inevitability of it. The door closing, the darkness waiting inside. But before it could happen, the stranger who had shouted charged up. He slammed the door open with such force it rattled the caravan, yanked me away, and dragged me into a run. He didn't let go of my hand until we were halfway across the park. When we finally reached my mother's caravan, she thought he was the threat. She screamed at him until he managed to explain what had happened. By then, her face had gone pale as ash. That night, we packed everything and fled without a word. We never spoke of it again. My mother couldn't face it. Each time therapy brushed against the memory, she'd leave the room. At 12, I couldn't fully grasp the horror. I just knew something inside me had cracked. That day taught me the monsters weren't in movies or hiding under beds. They walked among us. They smiled. They offered cake, and hoping you'll step inside. Now, as an adult, I see it for what it was. That boy wasn't just lonely. He was bait. That man wasn't harmless. He was a predator. And if it weren't for that stranger, I wouldn't be here telling you this story. I never learned his name. After making sure I was safe, he slipped away into the night. Sometimes I wonder if I was their first target, or just the first one who got away. It doesn't haunt me every day, but it lingers like a shadow at the edge of my thoughts, a reminder that real monsters don't always need weapons. Sometimes they wait quietly behind caravan doors, smiling too wide, promising you sweets and hoping you'll step inside. From the very beginning, my life felt like a slow descent into someone else's nightmare. Growing up, I lived under the suffocating grip of my emotionally and mentally abusive helicopter mother, a misogynistic stepfather, and my brother. Home was never safe, more like a stage where every move I made was controlled, criticized, or punished. By the time I turned 18, I was desperate to breathe. My grandparents offered me an escape, letting me move in with them while I attended college nearby. It felt like freedom, but I never realized that running from one kind of prison would lead me straight into another, far more dangerous one. With independence came rebellion. I experimented with everything: clothes, music, tattoos, and especially relationships. I was searching for an identity, but also for chaos, as if proving I could thrive in it. That's when James appeared. We'd gone to high school together, though years had passed since we last spoke. He found me through a MySpace forum, and soon we were messaging non-stop. James had his own tragic backstory: abuse, trauma, dislocation. He was quirky, edgy, different. I mistook those qualities for depth. Our conversations grew intense, twisted, sometimes laced with darkness, confessions of self-harm, fascination with disturbing videos. Red flags I should have run from only pulled me closer. After months of texting, James came to visit. We stayed in a hotel together. What should have been exciting already felt wrong. I'll never forget one night. Clothes strewn everywhere, furniture out of place, James standing in the wreckage of the room, smiling like something inside him had cracked. Then he dropped to one knee and proposed with a sapphire and diamond ring. I said yes. I was 18, naive, and convinced this chaos was love. Yet deep down, I felt like I had agreed to something I would never escape. When James left, we both cried, but instead of letting him go, I convinced myself the answer was to follow him. I withdrew from college, left everything behind, and moved across states to be with him. His grandmother's house became my new cage. The room we shared was small, suffocating, and I was rarely allowed beyond its walls. James grew more obsessive, more controlling. His eccentric love for Insane Clown Posse spiraled into mania. Tattoos, face paint, and eventually demands that I paint my own face. Refusing led to screaming, shoving, and even being locked in closets. The isolation ate away at me. No friends, no job, no support system, just James and his madness. He kept a notebook, journaling in it daily. At first, I dismissed it as harmless, until one day curiosity got the better of me. He had left it on the bed. My gut told me to read, and what I found still makes my blood run cold. In his handwriting, he detailed violent fantasies, cutting me with a box cutter, mutilating me, hints about me not surviving. Reading it was like staring into the mind of someone who no longer saw me as human. That moment saved my life. I reached out to my aunt, who came for me immediately. When I told James I was leaving, he wept, begged, then erupted into rage again, trying to trap me in the closet. But he had to leave for work, and the second he was gone, I packed my belongings as his grandmother screamed at me. I walked out the door, shaking, knowing that if I stayed, I wouldn't have lived to see another day. You'd think that would be the end, but James didn't vanish. A few months later, we reconnected, stupidly as friends. I even visited him once more, though nothing happened. Deep down, I knew better. I had to cut him off completely. And I did, at least for a while. Years passed. I moved across the country, rebuilt my life, returned to school, got married. I hadn't thought of James in ages, until a few weeks ago. Out of nowhere, he found me on Facebook. His first message was casual, but when I told him to stop contacting him, his response was chilling in its simplicity. Nah. I blocked him. He followed with a Snapchat request, blocked again. Then he appeared on Instagram, on a brand new account, no posts, no followers. The only person he followed was me. I scrubbed my personal information from everywhere I could, locked down every trace of myself. But no matter how far I run, I feel the weight of his shadow pressing in, patient, lingering. I made a terrible mistake at 18, one I was lucky to survive. But James has never truly gone away. He watches, he waits, like the echo of a nightmare that refuses to end. And if you're listening to this, James, hear me clearly. I have you blocked. Stay gone. Because if you ever come back, I fear the next chapter of this story won't end with me walking away. It was Thursday, August 8th, 2002. I was 12 years old, caught between childhood innocence and the dark weight of growing up too fast. Middle school, family changes, the chaos of a broken home, it all blurred together. But nothing could have prepared me for the horror that was about to carve itself permanently into my life. For 6 years, I had lived with my mom after she and my dad divorced. Not long after, she began seeing someone new. Within months, he had moved in with us. Looking back now, there were warning signs everywhere, flashing red lights I didn't yet understand. One night in 1999, my sisters and I were watching the finale of a TV show when her boyfriend staggered into the room, drunk. Without a word, he punched the old glass TV screen with his bare hand. It shattered, cutting him badly. He stood there bleeding, screaming, his rage spilling into the room like poison. That moment terrified us, but my mom forgave him. Somehow, apologies and excuses were enough. And so, he stayed. By 2002, my mom had finally had enough. She moved us into a new apartment, trying desperately to start fresh. I didn't understand back then. To me, it just felt like losing another piece of stability. I resented her for pushing him out. I had no idea how much danger she was trying to protect us from. That Thursday, I wasn't feeling well at school. A rash spread across my waist, and the nurse called my mom. A doctor quickly diagnosed it as shingles. I was told to rest and was excused from school on Friday as well. That Friday morning, my mom left for work, making sure I'd eaten before she kissed me goodbye. I stayed in bed, relieved that the rash hadn't worsened overnight. Then, I heard something in the hallway. I thought my mom had come back for something she'd forgotten. I called out to her. But it wasn't her. It was him. Her ex-boyfriend walked into my room. He sat down on my bed, speaking softly. Too softly. He said he missed us, said he wanted to make things right with my mom. I told him I missed him too, not understanding the truth of what was happening. I even told him I hoped he and my mom could get back together. Before leaving, he made me promise not to tell her he had stopped by. I promised, but when she got home, I told her anyway. What I didn't realize then was how he had gotten inside. He didn't have a key. Nobody let him in. He shouldn't have even known where we lived, but I never questioned it. That weekend, I stayed with my dad and grandmother. My mom was supposed to pick me up Sunday morning, but she never showed. She never answered her phone. By the time we returned home, the apartment was dark and silent. No note, no sign of her. The police couldn't enter until 24 hours had passed. When they finally opened the door Sunday night, everything looked normal. But in the bathroom, I found something chilling. My mom's partial denture. She never left home without it. My dad's face went pale when he saw it. He knew instantly. Something terrible had happened. Monday passed. Still nothing. And then Tuesday morning came, the day everything collapsed. That night, one of my mom's neighbors had gone up to the locked attic laundry room. When the landlord opened the door, they found her. My mom's lifeless body lay inside. She had been dead for around 48 hours. The marks around her neck told the truth. She hadn't died naturally. Her ex-boyfriend had returned Saturday. She was on the phone with my aunt when she said the last words we'd ever hear from her. "There's someone knocking. It's him again. I'll call you later." She never got the chance. He broke in using a credit card to jimmy the lock, stormed into her bedroom, and strangled her. Then, as if she were nothing, he dragged her body upstairs to the laundry, locked the door from the inside, and walked away into the night. He was arrested Tuesday afternoon after bragging in a bar that he had done something really stupid. At his trial, my sister and I testified. He was convicted, not of murder, but manslaughter, a so-called crime of passion. He was sentenced to 9 years, but served only 7. 7 years for destroying a life. 7 years for stealing a mother. People have told me I was lucky, that if I had been home that Saturday, he might have killed me too. Maybe that's true, but luck doesn't erase the nightmares. It doesn't erase the silence of an apartment where my mother never came back. I refuse to speak his name. He doesn't deserve one. To me, he is only the monster who stole my mom. 7 years of prison wasn't justice. Not when my mom will never again see the sun, never again smile, never again hold her children. Why should he get freedom when she never will? Sometimes I wonder if fate spared me for a reason. But every time I remember his shadow standing in my doorway, every time I remember my mom's last words, I know one thing for certain. Monsters don't always hide under beds. Sometimes they stand right in front of you, smiling, apologizing, pretending to love you, while quietly planning the moment they'll take everything away. I've always felt at home in the woods. I grew up barefoot on dirt trails, more at ease with the silence of the forest than the noise of city streets. The wild never scared me. Storms, darkness, strange noises in the night, I thought I knew them all. The forest had always been my refuge. But I was wrong. The wilderness doesn't just shelter life. Sometimes it hides things that shouldn't be out there at all. And on one trip near Mount Rainier, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't alone. I was being watched. I was being hunted. This happened a few years ago, in my mid-20s. I had taken a week off to go completely off-grid. No phone, no GPS, no marked campgrounds. Just me, a raw map, and miles of backcountry where few people ever go. For the first couple of days, it was everything I wanted. Peace, silence, that eerie comfort of being so deep in the wilderness you almost forget the rest of the world exists. But on the third night, something shifted. I woke up after midnight, not to a sound, but to that primal alarm your body feels when something is wrong. When I unzipped the tent to check, he was there, a man, sitting by my dead fire, staring into the ashes as if they were still glowing. He didn't belong. No pack, no water, no gear. Just jeans, a dark jacket, and eyes that froze when they noticed me. And then, without a word, he bolted, straight into the trees, gone so quickly it was like he'd been waiting for the chance. I told myself he was a lost hiker, or high, or just strange. But when he found me again 2 nights later, 15 miles away in an unmarked part of the forest, I knew I was wrong. He lingered just beyond the firelight, his voice calm but wrong, asking me strange questions about elk, about my tent, about my name. And when my flashlight finally landed on his face, it was him. The same man, same clothes, same empty hands. And once again, he ran. After that, the nights blurred into a waking nightmare. Footsteps circling my tent. Silence too heavy, broken by deliberate noises that weren't animals. A fake coyote howl that stretched too long, too human, like someone testing the sound to see if it rattled me. By the time I made it back to my car, I felt more like prey than a camper. And I'll never forget the way the forest pressed in on me those last few miles, as if it was holding its breath, waiting to see if I'd make it out alive. I never saw him again. I never learned who he was or how he tracked me through miles of wilderness without leaving a trace. But I know this much. He wasn't lost. He wasn't wandering. He came out there for me. And that's why I'll never go camping alone again.